This is an avocado. I know you absolutely love avocados and are willing to pay $5 for one. However, the store only asks $2 for it. This means that you are willing to pay $3 more compared to the asking price of the store. This is your consumer surplus. It is the difference between the price you are willing to pay for the avocado and the price you actually have to pay. Remember this definition because it's important. Consumer surplus can be defined as the difference between the price the consumer is willing to pay and the actual price. Now, let's think of someone who is lost in the forest with $10 in his pocket. I have no idea how you will get lost in the forest in the first place, but let's use this example anyways. This person doesn't know which fruits or plants he can safely eat, so he is absolutely starving. At that point, he stumbles across a person willing to sell him the same avocado you purchased in the store. He is willing to pay all the money he has, so $10 for the avocado. However, the person selling the avocado to him only asks $2 for it. The starving person now has a consumer surplus of $8 because he was willing to pay $8 more for the avocado than the amount he actually had to pay for it. Instead of only two people in the market for avocados, you and the starving man, we can extend this model for all consumers in the market. I can show you this graphically on your screen now. You can see the consumer surpluses for yourself and the starving man, but also for all other people in the market. The demand curve consists of all people willing to buy an avocado at a specific price. So person A might be willing to pay $8, person B $6 and person C $1. Remember that these are just examples, as any other point on the demand curve belongs to another person willing to buy an avocado. Person A has a consumer surplus of $6, B of $4 and C does not have a consumer surplus. The $10 that the starving man is willing to pay is the demand choke price. At a price higher than this, nobody is willing to buy the avocado. Person C does not purchase an avocado because the price he is willing to pay is lower than the market price of $2. At the price of $2, quantity Q avocados are being sold. The total consumer surplus is a shaded area above the market price but underneath the demand curve. Let's call this area CS. This area accounts for all individual surpluses added together. We can calculate this area as the demand choke price minus the market price times the quantity divided by 2, because consumer surplus is a triangle. Take as an example that Q is 100. We then get 10 minus 2 times 100 divided by 2 is 400. So 400 is the consumer surplus in this example. But the avocado you like so much also has to be produced. Producer surplus is relatively similar to consumer surplus. Producer surplus can be defined as the difference between the price the producers receive and the price at which they are willing to sell. On your screen you can see the supply curve for avocados in the market we used before. Every point on the supply curve belongs to a supplier of avocados. We can use producers X, Y and Z as examples. X is willing to sell for 50 cents, Y for $1 and Z for $3 per avocado. X has a producer surplus of $1.50, Y of $1 and Z does not have a producer surplus. There is no producer willing to sell an avocado for less than the 50 cents producer X is willing to sell for, so this is the supply choke price. Producer X has a producer surplus of $1.50, the difference between his willingness to sell at 50 cents and the market price of $2. The same logic applies to producer Y, who has a producer surplus of $1. Producer Z does not sell any avocados, as he wants a price of more than the market price for avocados. The total producer surplus is visible as a shaded area in the graph. This area is called PS. It can be calculated as the market price minus the supply choke price times the quantity divided by 2, as this is also a triangle. Take as an example that Q equals 100. We then get 2 minus 0.50 times 100 divided by 2, which is 75. So the total producer surplus in this market is 75. We can now draw both the consumer surplus and the producer surplus in the same graph. Consumer surplus in the initial situation is marked A and producer surplus is marked B. We now explore what happens when something in the market changes. Let's say that fertilizer for avocados becomes more expensive. This shifts the supply curve inward, as we know from my earlier video on supply and demand. The market price increases and the quantity decreases from Q to Q prime. Area A remains consumer surplus and Area B remains producer surplus. Area C is transferred from consumer surplus to producer surplus. Areas D and E are lost consumer surplus and areas F and G are lost producer surplus. You can pause the video here if you wish to take a closer look at both graphs. That brings us to the end of the video. This video took me a lot of time to make, So if you learned something, I would really appreciate it if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel. This lets the YouTube algorithm know others that my video could also be helpful to them. See you in my next video.